Hey guys, EC Network here, coming at you with another video. Recently, Duncan Rouleau, one of the creators behind Ben 10, a part of Man of Action, took to Twitter to do a Q&A session with fans who asked a variety of questions regarding the Ben 10 franchise. And I'm going to talk about this in a few different videos discussing different topics that were brought up, because honestly, there's so much brought up that I can make this a 30-minute long video, which I don't want to be doing. But in this video in particular, we're going to discuss Duncan Rouleau's comments on the future of the series. As we all know right now, Ben 10 is kind of in a state of limbo with this 6th series on the horizon, yet we haven't really heard anything about it. We haven't even gotten official confirmation that it's being made from Cartoon Network. And it's been a few years since Duncan Rouleau has talked about the 6th series, and this is the first comments we've had from him since 2021 when the reboot ended. Before we get into this, a lot of these questions were compiled by Cartoon Base, who kind of helped to organize this Q&A session, but some of the questions did come from Twitter fans who had Duncan respond to them directly, so I'll let you know who asked what when we get to the questions. But first and foremost, we got Duncan's comments on the original continuity and the reboot continuity, and if the next series is going to be in either of these, which is obviously a point of discussion that we've discussed at length on this channel. So first and foremost, Cartoon Base asked, are there any plans to continue the original continuity? And Duncan said, we don't look backwards. We're always looking for ways to explore and build on the idea. Early on, that included following Ben as he aged, but any iterations in the future will be about discovering new ways of telling Ben's story. So first and foremost, if you take this at face value, you might think, oh man, they're not going to return to the original continuity. But honestly, I kind of view this as a non-statement. And the reason I say this is because he's not really saying much of anything here. He's just saying we don't look backwards, meaning they're not going to go back and do the original series season 5 or Alien Force or Ultimate Alien seasons 4 or Omniverse season 9. That's not happening. He's saying here that in the future we will be discovering new ways of telling Ben's story, which, okay, a new way of telling Ben's story could be within the original continuity with Ben in his 20s, or a series following Ben 10,000, which he does comment on, and we'll get into that a little bit later. So I really don't think this is answering the question of, are they going back to the original continuity or not? He answered the question very smartly because he gave us an answer, but it's also a non-answer. He kind of dodged the question because he was also asked if you plan to cover Ben 10's teenage years in the reboot continuity, and the answer that Duncan gave is no immediate plans, but if a great take comes across our table, we'll explore. This is a different answer from what happened with the original continuity. The original continuity is saying we don't look backwards. Well, if that's the case, if you're not looking to iterate on any of the prior iterations of Ben 10, that would also mean that you're not looking to iterate on the reboot as well. He's saying here, though, the confirmation he said is more finite. He said there are no immediate plans to explore Ben's teenage years in the reboot continuity, meaning that a sequel series to the reboot is not happening. This is something that I've been saying for a while. If a sequel series for the reboot was going to happen, it would have happened already. And given that it's been 3 years almost since the reboot ended and there is no sequel series, we're not getting a sequel series. But he does say that they are open to exploring that idea if something came across the table. The next question from Cartoon Base is, would you be interested in making an adult animated Ben 10 series? Duncan responds saying, absolutely. It would be great to have a high stakes show that offered more mature themes. Not so interested in gore or any adult related content, but dealing with emotional, social, and political elements that the MCU movies deal with would be exciting. As we've discussed at length on this channel, I do think the next iteration of Ben 10 will be a series targeting young adult audiences, and I feel like part of what Duncan is saying here is going to be adapted into the next series. Obviously, he's not saying that here, he's just saying they'd like to do that, but in all honesty, I'd be pretty surprised if we don't get some of what he's saying here within the next Ben 10 series. And as to specifically what he's saying here, I think having a show with high stakes that's emotional, dealing with social and political elements is something that could be good. I don't want them to dive too heavily into the political side of things, because I feel like that's what Young Justice did a little bit too much when it came back in its revival show. But on the other hand, I think it's good that he's saying they're not so interested in gore or adult related content, because I feel like when a lot of these animation companies say, oh yeah, we're making a adult version of this franchise, they end up going down that road where they just throw in gore and some adult related content because they can, because it's an adult series. I think of the Velma show. I didn't watch the Velma show, but from the promotional images I saw, that's exactly what it did. Just here's some gore, here's some adult related content, some things that aren't meant for young viewers to see, because we can, because it's an adult series. And I think that's the wrong way to handle a young adult or adult show, is to just throw in gore, throw in adult emotional content because we can. Let's tell a good story. Let's have a good story that's emotional and it deals with some elements that are relatable to the real world, but you don't want to dive too heavily into that as well because then you could run into problems too. Somewhat related to this question, BMO Kincaid on Twitter asks, any plans for more mature Ben 10 franchises compared to Alien Force and Ultimate Alien? Duncan says that they've pitched ideas about a more mature Ben 10 to Cartoon Network, but the true answer is what gets made is what the network needs. And I think this is very insightful in a few ways. Number one, he says what gets made is what the network needs. I think people don't realize that a lot of times that's what happens when it comes to big IPs and big franchises. The network controls their destiny. Yes, Man of Action, they are the people who created Ben 10, but in all honesty and reality, they don't really have much say in what's coming next. The final say comes from Cartoon Network, so if they want a comedy Ben 10 series like with the reboot, that's what they're getting. If they want a more adult series in the 6th iteration, that's what they're getting. Man of Action is kind of just along for the ride, and if they don't want to come along for the ride, Cartoon Network will get someone else who will come along for the ride. I remember hearing a while back that Man of Action didn't have the biggest involvement in Alien Force because they wanted to go down one path with the next iteration of Ben 10, the sequel series, and Cartoon Network wanted to go down the road of Alien Force, the one that we got, and they brought in Dwayne McDuffie to help out with that, and Man of Action kind of took a backseat. I don't know how involved they were, how not involved they were, but it's just something that I had heard a while back. Next up, they asked, would you be interested in making a Ben 10,000 special? And Duncan responded, said yes. Ben 10,000 is a great character and deserves their own feature. I agree, they should make a Ben 10,000 show. Hopefully it comes in the not too distant future. Then the next question we had comes from Twitter user Joe Bro, who says, will the next iteration of Ben Tennyson be a 10-year-old version of himself or a teenager like after the original series? And he said, sorry, I don't have a clear answer on this. And kind of building off of that, Cartoon Base asked, is there a new Ben 10 series still in discussion? And Duncan Rouleau says, unfortunately, I cannot say. I could tell you that there is a strong desire from both Ben 10 fans as well as the guys at Man of Action. So to break down both of those things, first of all, from the tweet, is the next series going to be about 10-year-old Ben or teenager Ben? I think it's pretty clear that he can't answer that question. There are NDAs at play here. He can't say if they're working on a new series. He can't say if they're not working on a new series. He can't say what that would be about or what it's not going to be about. So it's a bit of a non-answer here. I can't say whatever. The next thing though is the Ben 10 series still in discussion. Again, he says he cannot say. Same thing, NDAs, he can't talk about this stuff. He does say that there's a strong desire from both Ben 10 fans as well as the guys from Man of Action, which this part gets me a little bit concerned. The reason I say this is because it kind of makes me feel like him saying there's a strong desire, and he put this in all caps, from Ben 10 fans, which we know we've been discussing on this channel, where is Ben 10? People are discussing all over the internet, where is Ben 10? I keep getting comments on my videos asking, where is the next Ben 10? There's a strong desire for the next Ben 10. We all are aware of this. But he also says there's a strong desire from the guys at Man of Action, which makes me wonder, why didn't he mention Cartoon Network in this? Does that mean Man of Action was pitching the next Ben 10, and then they were working on it, and then Cartoon Network all of a sudden pulled the plug on the project? We know something was in development last year. I don't think that's the case, because I do think Ben 10 is too big of a property to not have another series, but it's a little concerning to hear him not mention Cartoon Network here. Are they not interested in having another Ben 10? Because that's kind of what he's implying here, that there isn't a strong desire from Cartoon Network to make the next Ben 10, which again, I don't think that's the case. I might be reading too much into this particular comment, but still, it kind of sucks that, 3 years after the reboot ended, we're still in a sense of limbo with Ben 10. We still don't know what's going on because the network hasn't said anything. And honestly, I think part of his statement here where he's saying he cannot say, I don't know this for certain, this is just speculation on my part, but I would imagine when he said that the next iteration was going to get a full announcement by December of 2021, and that didn't happen, Cartoon Network probably wasn't the happiest about that being said publicly on Twitter. So I feel like a lot of this is just, you can't say this. It's like the PR people prepping him saying, you can't discuss a new iteration of Ben 10. You're going to be asked about it. Anytime you do, basically say no comment. And that's essentially what he did. A lot of this is no comment. But the takeaways here, for me at least, is we're not going to get a sequel series to the reboot, which in my mind has been established for a while now. Is the original continuity coming back? Maybe, but he can't say. Do they want to do an adult Ben 10? Yeah, they do. Do they want to do a series on Ben 10,000? Yeah, they do. Are either of those things going to happen in the next iteration? We don't know, because he can't say. A lot of this here is he can't say, but I still think these comments are interesting to hear from, given that he is one of the creators of Ben 10, and he hasn't talked about the series in 3 years pretty much. We haven't heard anything about the next iteration of Ben 10 since the reboot ended back in 2021. Anyways, let me know in the comment section below what you guys think about all this. What do do you guys take away from all of the comments here that we mentioned in this video? If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to see more content like this from DC Network, especially be on the lookout for the next round of videos discussing this interview or this Q&A session, because there's a lot more here that we haven't even gotten into here. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.